Hello, beautiful souls. My name's Sheena, and welcome to the Shine Spiritual YouTube channel. This is my first YouTube video, so I'm really excited to be on here with you all. I wanted to talk today a little bit about my own spiritual awakening. I imagine some of you have either been through your own spiritual awakening or are currently going through your own spiritual awakening, and I thought it might be a great idea to show you that you're not alone, and who knows, maybe some of your experiences will be similar to mine. I underwent my spiritual awakening about, I would say, 3.5 years ago. It started with a book, actually. My brother-in-law gave me this book here. I should have had it ready. Sorry, my crystals are falling off. A book by Brian Weiss. It's called Many Lives, Many Masters. And this just was the book that got my toes dipping in the spiritual waters, in those kinds of books. I then went on to read all the Michael Newton books. On my website, actually, I'm going to have a whole section on book recommendations. So visit www.shinespiritual.com if you'd like to check out my book list. There's a lot of great books on there. But that was the first. That was the one that got me thinking about, okay, what happens after we die? And basically just thinking a little bit more about our existence in this universe. I think I'd always thought about it. I think I'd always thought about, isn't there so much more than all of this? And why are we here? And what happens next? And even as a kid, I remember identifying with characters like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the Luke Perry, Christy Swanson version where, she's kicking ass and taking names, slaying vampires. And I thought, oh yeah, she's cleaning up the world. I want to do something just like that. And so it's amazing how when you look back at your life and these little things that you thought were no big deal, like liking a movie, something that simple, it's everything is leaving this little trail of breadcrumbs toward the path that you are supposed to be on in this life. So that's how it kind of all started, was just getting into some books and then having a hunger for more spiritual content. And then around that same time too, on a personal level, I had achieved a great level of success in my third dimensional career as an HR professional. I originally started out as a teacher and then ventured into HR later on, and I was having great success, and my husband and I bought a house and, had all the stuff and the things and the vehicles, and I still was feeling like empty, just feeling like even though I had everything that I kind of set out to accomplish, I was always a bit of a high achiever in school and always, me kind of individual, and none of it ever made me happy. Here I found myself in this life I'd always kind of dreamed of and imagined for myself, and I didn't know it at the time, but had manifested. And I still was not feeling fulfilled. And so that was the beginning for me. That was the beginning of my awakening, between that feeling of, why am I still not happy? Why am I still longing for something more? And why do I not know what that is, what more means? I was just kind of like in this rut of feeling stuck in my life, but not really knowing what I wanted either. So anyway, I kept on reading, and be sure to check out my book list. And I came across a couple of spiritual teachers that resonated with me, and I think that's important in the beginning. Is I talked to a couple people. My aunt is on her own spiritual path and, follows a particular yogi and has gone down a very particular route for herself. And I talked to her about that, and I was thinking, okay, maybe I should look up this yogi and venture down this path. And I did read a little bit about it, and I just kind of wasn't feeling it. I'm like, oh, I don't really think this is for me. So I just started going online and on Instagram and YouTube and checking out all the different spiritual teachers and what they had to offer. And I think, the most important part if you're starting out on your own spiritual journey is just trust your instincts, trust your inner knowing, your gut. If something's not resonating with you, it's not meant for you. So just keep on following what lights you up, what you're, if you're sitting there going, yeah, more, then okay, that's resonating, keep following that path. But if you're like, oh, it sounds okay, but nothing's really lighting me up inside, well, maybe time to move on to some different content or some different spiritual teachers or whatever. And each person's path really is unique to them. So it's important that you follow the path that resonates most for you. And we're going to talk about, oh gosh, I've got so much content that I am ready to put out there in the world about, energetics, like energy and how it all works. And what is, for those of you out there who are saying, well, what's ascension and what's this girl talking about? I'm going to get into all of that in future YouTube videos. So be sure to hit the bell and subscribe to my channel. And if you haven't done it already, and like the videos that resonate with you. And if this video is not resonating with you, that's okay too. Thanks for stopping in. But I hope those of you who resonate with this content stick around, because I've got a lot of great stuff coming up that I'm really excited about. Anywho, back to the story. I do go off on little tangents. I will warn you. It's a thing. So I'll do my best to stay on topic. So I started listening to some different spiritual teachers and learning about ascension. That was the biggie for me. That just got me hook, line, and sinker, learning about how energy works and how we are living in an interdimensional multiverse. And I will preface this with, traditionally I'm a very logical person, very factual. I wasn't huge into math and science, but I certainly had a healthy respect and appreciation for it. And I wasn't what I would have called at the time, like, woo-woo. I wasn't into spirituality. My sister was into it a little bit. She works at a Waldorf school and is very into Rudolf Steiner's work, if you've had a chance to read into any of that, which is a path unto itself. And I, was very respectful of her views and also the work of Rudolf Steiner, still am. Big fan. That man definitely knew what he was talking about. And it wasn't the path for me at the time. It wasn't the way that I was going to get into spirituality. And I knew that. And I needed stuff that applied to the logic in me, or appealed to the logic in me. I needed like almost proof. And when I started learning about ascension mechanics and energy and frequency and all the work of Nikola Tesla, and sacred geometry and number patterns and, the cosmos and how everything is interconnected, that is what appealed to me. So that is kind of the course or the journey that I embarked upon when I was first awakening. And we're going to talk about a lot of that in future YouTube videos. But I think the big thing that kicked off my spiritual awakening in a big way was I did have what I would call a little bit of a spontaneous kundalini awakening. And for those of you who don't know what kundalini awakening is, it's basically you've got energy coiled at the base of your spine in your root chakra, And a kundalini awakening activates that energy, and the energy begins to rise up your spinal column to the pineal gland. I will admit that I did have the help of psilocybin to activate that kundalini awakening, and it did allow for some very, very intense visioning. I would say like 4 to 6 hours of intense visioning. I was seeing things like ones and zeros and binary code, almost like the Matrix, and I didn't really know what that meant. And then it sort of showed me dark and light, like it was trying to tell me. I had just watched, I think it was like The Social Experiment or The Social Dilemma. I had just watched that documentary, and then, yes, had my psilocybin experience. And so that's where I think it started, was like the ones and zeros, thinking about tech and things like that. And then, but that ventured into, light versus dark, and just the opposition of the two, or the polarity of the two, and really getting a sense of what duality is. On this planet, we live in duality. We have two eyes. We have a left and right hemisphere of the brain. There is light, there is dark, there is love, and there is fear. And this vision was just showing me all of that. And it's stuff that I hadn't really explored before. I hadn't explored the duality of this planet and of this human experience before. So it was all just coming at me and quite new. And the most profound vision I had was just a vision of a very big, bright ball of energy light. And I don't know how I knew, but I just knew that it was Source or God, or the source of universal creation, universal energy, whatever you'd like to call it. It's neither here nor there. Everyone has a different name that resonates for them, but for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call it Source. And for the first time, I had dabbled in meditation, but for the first time, I was able to have an alignment, a connection with Source energy. And I felt this overwhelming feeling of just unconditional love. I don't know how else to describe it other than it was like, mother's love, but times 100. It was just the most incredible feeling of, wow, no wonder why I wasn't feeling satisfied in my life, because this is what I'm searching for, kind of feeling. And Source basically showed me what it was like to connect with it, and it showed me that I was in a spiral, an upward spiral. And when we talk about ascension, that's essentially what ascension is, going through that upward spiral. But in my vision, one side of the spiral was light, happiness, joy, unconditional love, and the other side of the spiral was darkness, fear, self-consciousness, trauma, everything that comes with fear. It was showing me visions of, a fiery comet coming down to the earth, and then I had flashes of, war and battle. And it's very interesting because this all happened before everything that's going on in the world today. And I see now what it was sort of trying to tell me. And the message I got, it wasn't a verbal message. It was more of just I call them downloads. So you'll hear me saying, I had a download the other day, and it's just, when I'm aligned with my higher self, I get drops of information. And this is it's been happening basically since that time. And I feel like it's when different synapses in my brain draw a connection, and I'm like, oh, I never saw that before. And I'm able to make all these new connections now that I was never able to make before. And so if that isn't advancing consciousness, I don't know what is. But basically, the download I had from that experience was that there is dark and there is light on this earth, and we are all ascending or evolving in consciousness in a spiral, and that we can experience love and joy and gratitude and light, or we can experience dark and fear and scarcity and lack and all that comes with the dark side. And how we decide to experience this reality and this world really is up to us and the perspective that we hold, and also the lens through which, sorry, little hair there, also the lens through which we are viewing our reality. And I've learned since then that we all have lenses that are affected and clouded, I would say, by our traumas and our limiting beliefs and the societal programming that we've experienced in our lifetime from the second we were born. And I'll get in a little bit. I'll get into that topic a lot more. Unpack how to unpack your trauma. I call it shadow work. How to get through the dark side of that spiral so that we can come out the other side into the light and into, a lot of people say it's the transition from third dimensional energy and density, which is this physical reality that we're living in, and fifth dimensional density and reality, which is, much lighter and more joyful and more just of the light. And that's where we're all headed. And I happen to believe we're headed a lot further than the fifth dimension, personally, and I'll talk a little bit about that, my theories around ascension and where humanity is headed. But, for now, let's just say that I've gone from a place of where after my daughter was born, I was on antidepressants and had postpartum depression. I was probably a good 50 to 75 pounds overweight. I was eating like crap, a lot of meat, a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar. My life has completely flipped upside down. I'm on day 2 of a fast right now. I eat organic, and I'm going to talk a lot about that and why health and ascension go hand in hand, and why it's important to cleanse your vessel. And it's not necessary right away. Like, sometimes I know for me, I had to get through a lot of my shadow work. And I don't think that ever really ends. I'm not, there, but I think we're always doing shadow work and always examining our traumas and our belief systems and things like that. But certainly, when you first start out and you haven't really done much at all, maybe a little bit, if you've done some counseling or different, cognitive behavioral therapies or something like that, you might be well on your way to addressing some of your shadow work, if you will. But for me, like, I couldn't do everything at once. I couldn't change, my eating habits and my health and do my trauma work at the same. Like, it was way too much. So just remember, when you're starting out on this journey, yes, there's a lot in front of you that's going to be amazing and wonderful, but take it easy. Go easy on yourself. Start out slowly, take on what you can handle, and most importantly, listen to your body. If you need to nap in the middle of the day, nap. Please nap. One of the things that I'm going to talk about in future videos is ascension symptoms. When you hold more light in your body, when you raise your vibration and your frequency, it takes energy. I actually feel more energy when I'm holding more light, but when you're doing the shadow work, especially, it takes a lot out of you, a lot of energy. So rest, hydrate your body, and go easy on yourself. And if you can't tackle, some of the health stuff or the eating habits right away, don't worry. It's okay. It'll be a lot easier once you've done a little bit of the shadow work. You'll feel a lot lighter. You'll feel like you can handle more. When I started out, I remember I would have like crying fits where I'd be like literally lying on the hallway floor being like, enough, like I can't handle this. And so, that's one thing about spiritual awakening is, I will say, it is not easy. It takes work. It takes dedication. And, but I can also tell you that the reward is, oh my goodness, so worth it. So worth it. And yeah, you'll be surprised what you're capable of. You'll be really surprised what you're capable of. Source never gives us more than what we can handle. And if it seems like a lot, ask for help. You're not alone. And I know for some of you, this is going to be a little bit of a far-fetched idea, but you have an entire cosmos of higher selves and higher beings that are rooting for you and that are rooting for humanity. And they're here to help, whether you believe that or not. Some folks might believe in angels, some folks might believe in galactics, others might believe in all of the above, and some might believe, might be more of a stoic, thinking that, we've got this one opportunity here on earth and let's live it to the fullest. And, that's okay too, but just know that you're never really alone. There are other people going through this awakening with you, and this journey with you. And, when we talk a little bit about my traumas, I was born prematurely and spent a lot of time in an incubator as an infant and a lot of time alone. And I, believe you me, one of my major traumas was I could not be alone. And now I feel like it's one of the greatest places to be, because it opens up these doors into, I won't ruin the surprise, but just other realms, other dimensions, and other support systems and support networks that when you're ready will be there and are there now, cheering you on. So yeah, that's kind of how my awakening happened. And from there, I've had other visioning experiences and other psilocybin experiences. I am a proponent of plant medicine. I will say that it's not for everybody. There are a lot of different spiritual teachers that have different views on it. I believe that if Mother Earth put it there, she put it there for a reason. And, so I'll just leave it at that today, but that is my take on that. And yeah, I want to share more about my other visions as well and what I gained from them. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from that first awakening experience, that first spontaneous kundalini experience, was that things are going to be happening in future, and that there is dark and there is light in this universe and multiverse and planet and in our lives. And the more that we can focus on the light, the more that we can focus on the positive and shed those denser layers of trauma and limiting beliefs and density, the more that we can open ourselves up to what else is possible. So I very much look forward to sharing more information with you about, what that looks like and how I can help you along in your journey and your ascension path. I will be offering one-on-one sessions and support very soon. I'm working with a dear friend of mine, Tasha, who I hope you'll meet at one point. She is helping me learn how to develop a website, which is all new to me. I'm learning lots while I'm doing this. So yeah, just bear with me. My website should be up and running very soon. But in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Thanks, everyone.